Thank you for joining me on Synthesis Workshop. Today is a named reaction episode, and we'll be talking about the Birch reduction. This is a reaction that's pretty well known, but it has some recent applications that I think are worth taking a look at. So just as a brief overview, the Birch reduction converts aromatic rings to cyclohexadienes using sodium or lithium in liquid ammonia. There's also an ammonia-free variant reported in this Lett paper at the bottom that's starting to get some attention, and I think may become more well known in the years to come. The location of the double bonds in the cyclohexadiene products depends on the substituents that are attached to the aromatic ring, and it's well known that electron-donating substituents give this product type, while electron-withdrawing groups lead to this product type. Let's quickly get some more details on the mechanism before we go on. The Birch reduction starts with a 1-electron reduction of the aromatic ring, where the electron is coming from the metal, to form a radical anion that can be protonated in what turns out to be the rate-limiting step. The resulting radical can be reduced again with 1 electron, which forms an anion that can be protonated to form the cyclohexadiene product. Unraveling the mechanism for this reaction required answering the question, where does protonation happen first and why? In reference D, it was found that protonation occurs at the ortho position first. Furthermore, electrostatic potential maps predict that kinetic protonation will occur ortho or meta to an electron-donating group, which I've shown with the green circles, or para or ipso to an electron-withdrawing group, which I've shown with the orange circles. Alright, so what are people doing these days with the Birch reduction? Well, before we take a look at some examples from total synthesis, I thought it was worth going through one line of research being pursued by the Alkali group. Apologies if I butcher that name. In a general sense, the idea of this line of research is to use 1,4-cyclohexadienes bearing two unique substituents to add those substituents to a substrate, for example in the 1,2 difunctionalization of an alkene, with a re-aromatized byproduct. The reference at the top right is an account of this research direction, but I'll quickly show some recent implementations of this idea. In one example, this strategy was used for the transfer hydrocyanation of alkenes, enabled by a boron catalyst. This approach has also been used for a hydromethallylation, as well as a hydroiodination of alkynes. In the case of the hydroiodination, this process also goes with the release of ethylene. Looking at one of these reactions in more detail, we can see how the mechanism is working. We'll take the hydrocyanation as an example. Here, the boron is abstracting the cyanide from the cyclohexadiene reagent to generate a cyclic pentadienyl carbocation, which is acting as an acid to protonate the alkene and generate a tertiary carbocation, which goes with the loss of the aromatic byproduct. Now the tertiary carbocation can be trapped by the cyanide anion to form the difunctionalized product and regenerate the boron catalyst. And now, circling back to why we're talking about this, these cyclohexadiene reagents can be accessed through an alkylative Birch reduction sequence, where we first reduce with lithium and ammonia and then trap the resulting anion with methyl iodide. So that's one of the ways the Birch reduction is appearing in organic synthesis today, but let's take a look at some examples from total synthesis. In this example from the Kasunzu and Sarpong groups, which draws inspiration from prior art by Jin, they used a Birch reduction to convert the anisole moiety present in the complex alkaloid core into a cyclohexanone, by first achieving a methyl-enol ether intermediate and then hydrolyzing it. After that, they were able to elaborate the product into casonidine and 15-epi-casonidine. In another example with an anisole built into an alkaloid core, the Lett group executed the same tactic, but this time they went with dehydration to give this conjugated dienone product. This product was carried on to complete the synthesis of Junger-Matscher-Brunnen A, which required the installation of the complex peroxy bridge in the last step of the synthesis. Finally, I want to look at the Baron group's approach to Herculenes B and C. In this example, we'll start from a diaryl intermediate, which they used in a Birch reduction. They found that under these conditions, only the aromatic ring on the right was reduced to the cyclohexadiene. Then, they used Brookhardt's iridium silane conditions to reduce both amides of the diketopiperazine. Now, in order to perform a second Birch reduction on the aromatic ring on the left without getting over-reduction, they found that it was first necessary to release some of the strain in the system by converting two sp2 carbons to sp3 carbons by turning the methyl-enol ether into a ketone, which they protected as a 1,3-dioxylane with ethylene glycol. Then, the second Birch reduction could be successfully carried out, and subsequent treatment with HCl gave this diketone product, Herculene C, which could be treated with DBU to flip the stereochemistry at both of the alpha stereocenters and arrive at Herculene B. That's a pretty nice example of using multiple aromatic rings as sources for partially saturated carbocycles present in the final target. With that, we'll wrap it up. I hope you've enjoyed this named reaction episode. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, follow us on Twitter to stay up to date, and we'll see you next time.